Did you ask the federal court to extend pregnancy protections to transgender women?
Senator, not from my recollection.
No, sorry, I'm asking. I was wondering to understand the status of your submission.
No, in the submissions we talked about the meaning of pregnancy and potential pregnancy and how that may apply.
So can I ask, how do you see that applying in the Act currently to trans women?
Trans women, if someone is who applies for a job, for example,
yes,
and it is a trans woman and she may be asked whether or not she intends to have children, and if she replies, yes, I do, and then doesn't get the job because that employer doesn't want to employ women who may be of childbearing age, then she may have been subjected to unlawful discrimination on the basis of potential pregnancy.
I'm very confused. A biological male can't become pregnant.
But the grounds of pregnancy includes potential pregnancy as well as pregnancy.
But if they can't become pregnant, how can you then become potentially pregnant?
It's about the unlawful treatment by the employer. If someone is treated unfairly on the basis of pregnancy or potential pregnancy, then that is unlawful discrimination on the basis of pregnancy.
So if a bloke came in and they said, are you going to have children? Which is the same question really, and he said, oh, yeah, maybe. Are you saying that he could also claim that ground?
If he didn't receive the job because...
But they can't get pregnant?
No, not a man who is seeking a position, then it's not going to apply to a man.
Well, they're both biological men. It makes no sense. A biological man, you stated before, a biological man can't get pregnant. Am I correct? Because if I'm not, I've got to go back to school. I seriously do, because I missed that lesson in biology. I went to a convent school. The nuns may not have told me about it. But you said a biological man can't get pregnant.
That's correct, Senator. But someone who is a trans woman may be assumed to be pregnant or to be able to be pregnant.
So what stops a man putting on a dress, walking in and claiming the protections? He's now a woman. You've admitted that.
That would be up to a court to decide whether or not it was discrimination on the basis.
So it's the and with all due respect, it is the absurdity of the law yet again, which shows, again, the law does need to be changed because, for the record, biological men, doesn't matter what way you cut it, you cannot get pregnant. And quite frankly, it is an insult to women who actually are discriminated on because they want to have children when they biologically can get pregnant. But the good news is what we're proving today is the law needs to be changed.
Commanding the Narrative podcast, which I believe is the #1 podcast in the entire universe.
If you could go through life in the Liberal Party without being expelled, you should be ashamed of yourself.
We will decide who comes to this country and the circumstances in which they come.
Socialists don't like ordinary people choosing, or they might not choose socialism.
120 years ago, our country had the world's highest per capita income. What the hell happened?
The answer is mate, because I want to do you slowly. I want to do you slowly.
Ah! We're coming for you, globalist! Ah, coming for you!
G'day everyone, welcome back to another episode of Commanding the Narrative. My name is Stephen Tripp. Thank you to everyone who is watching this, whenever you are watching this. If you are watching this live, we want to hear from you. If you are on YouTube, Facebook or Rumble, you can contribute to tonight's conversation by asking a question or making a statement in the chat. And if you are really feeling up to it, you can hit that link to StreamYard and call in and ask a question or have your say, just like Talkback Radio, except we call it Talkback Streaming. So definitely want to hear from you tonight. These Sunday night episodes are always the most interactive. So let's hear from you. Now, we've got some great guests on tonight. My first attempt at dipping my toe into New Zealand and hearing about New Zealand politics and what's happening over there. And it's very, very interesting what's happening in New Zealand at the moment, especially with the two guests that I'm going to be talking about, because I think it relates to what happened here in Australia, particularly around COVID as well. So it's going to be a very interesting discussion with our great guests. But before we get there, I just want to let you know about how you can follow Commanding the Narrative and keep up to date with all that we are doing. It's by heading to the website commandingthenarrative.com, and you'll get all the previous podcasts that I've done. I did a very interesting discussion with Julian Gillespie last week about Western Australia seceding from the Federation. That was a very thought-provoking episode. Check that one out. And the one that's getting a lot of feedback is the one that I did on my own a couple of weeks ago, called Breaking the Chains of Political Apathy, Why You Should Want a Better Government, which all related to Australians for Better Government. People really thought that episode was thought-provoking as well, and they really enjoyed it. The feedback has been very good. So check those ones out. All the recent podcasts are up on Commanding the Narrative, so you don't ever miss anything that we do over the last few weeks. You also get a few articles that I might write and all the updates. And if you want to know who's coming up on the podcast this week, it's also on the website, including upcoming events like this one here on the Central Coast. I've been talking about it the last few weeks, the Central Coast Community Dinner Dance. It's on Saturday, the 1st of August. It's going to be a great evening of elegant, fine dining, inspiring speakers, and also dancing to the live sounds of the Peter Healy Band. It's going to be featuring Craig Kelly, Lyle Shelton, Gemma Naosi of the Libertarian Party, my good friend Stuart Bonds of One Nation, and I'll be speaking as well. I'm not organising this one, just speaking at it, so it's going to be a great event organised by the Central Coast Community Alliance. So head to commandingthenarrative.com and you'll find the links there to get your tickets, and it should be a great night, so please come along to that one. If you want to support Commanding the Narrative financially, throw us a few dollars. It can be done by heading to Buy Me a Coffee. It does help to pay for the stream, the website, and most importantly, keeps me very motivated, keeps me engaged with the audience, and also gives me a very warm and fuzzy feeling inside. So please check out Buy Me a Coffee if you would like to contribute there. Now, other exciting stuff that's going on always with Australians for Better Government is Australians for Better Government and everything that we are proposing there. I've been doing a few speaking engagements. I did one today. It was very well received. People are really resonating with the message of Australians for Better Government. Are you sick of the way that Australia is being governed? I think a lot of people would say yes. So please check out the website. You'll find all our proposals there. We are not a political party, so we are completely separate from the electoral system or being elected. We're more of a lobby group and a think tank. So please head to the website australiansforbetter.com. You can download our prospectus there and see all of our proposals, and also all the news that's up on the website as well. We had a press release earlier in the week where we talked about citizens-initiated veto. So please check that one out and read that one as well. And just lastly, I was on the Mike Ryan show again last week. This one was called The Protagonist. Mike's got about 100 episodes that he does. This one is a panel, and this is where I met one of our guests tonight, Ali Cook. We also had Jason Osborne on there talking about mainstream media. So it was a very interesting chat. As I always say, please support Australian independent media. If you are following Commanding the Narrative, it is much appreciated. But there are also some great independent media out there across Australia. So please follow Mike Ryan and everyone also in that space. We need to build up independent media in this country. We can't be relying on the mainstream anymore, which was what that discussion was all about. So let's get to tonight, because it's going to be interesting for me. I don't know too much about New Zealand politics, but I'm keen to learn, and we've got some very interesting guests. So let's bring them on. Sue Gray and also Ali Cook, welcome to Commanding the Narrative.
Thanks so much, Stephen. Great to be invited on your show. Thank you.
No, it's a pleasure. Now, Sue, you're a self-employed lawyer, strategist, and a mother of three, and you're the party leader for the Outdoors and Freedom Party in New Zealand.
Yes.
Also, Ali, you've got a very interesting background in music. You're a songwriter and recording artist, and also a PR and promotions expert in New Zealand. So I'm keen to hear about that. But maybe we'll kick it off with you, Sue. I know you guys have got some important news that you broke about the COVID response, but maybe let's get a bit of a background first, especially for the Australian audience. Sue, tell us a little bit more about your background, your experience in law, and how you got to a point of establishing a political party.
Yeah, I've worked in law for several decades, really, and I've increasingly specialised in complex emerging issues. So I've got a background with science and law, done a whole lot of really interesting cases, including resulting in a former Supreme Judge being forced to resign back in 2009, I think it was. But since COVID, I've spent a huge amount of time taking high court battles against the government for their lack of respect for the law, really, on a whole range of COVID things. I think we might have taken one of the first vax challenges in the world, certainly one of the first successful ones.
Interesting. And what about the party itself? Why did you establish the Outdoors and Freedom Party?
I didn't actually establish it myself. Alan Simmons was the founder, but I got asked to join the party, and I've been was the co-leader with him. And then he was badly assaulted at the protest in Wellington when we all went to Parliament to protest the mandates back in February, March 2022. He had his hip fractured by the New Zealand police. He spent a week in hospital getting a new hip. And that really kind of made things difficult for him because he was already in his mid-70s by then. So gradually he pulled back, and I sort of took over as the leader. We're looking at another co-leader at the moment, but at the moment I'm the leader.
Yeah, very interesting. We'll talk about the party a little bit later. Now, Ali, I've seen some of your music clips. You're a very good singer. I've also seen some clips of you, I guess you call it reality TV, where you were meeting an ex, or not an ex, a long lost brother, which is.
You've looked. You've stalked me.
Tell us a little bit about you, because I can imagine that you've led quite a life in the music industry and other places. And how did that lead to now being involved in politics?
Well, yeah, okay. I've always stood up for things that I thought were right, like that's been one of my things. And of course, I've been in music and PR and publicity and promotions, and I still am. I still work in PR, getting people onto TV, radio. I have a partner over in Sydney with Key2 Artist Promotions. We work both sides of the Tasman with independent artists. I've sort of spent I've had one foot to either side of the Tasman since the 1980s. I actually started my promotion work in Australia, working in the early 80s for Kevin O'Neill and Associates up in Townsville and Cairns. And then I went down and worked for Edgeley's International. We did all the big ice shows and circuses and things and Bullens. So yeah, I've sort of gone back and forth. Before COVID, I had been doing the international stage at Tamworth. I'd done Tamworth 10 times. I've had an album on the ARIA charts over there as well as here. My last album was produced by Buzz Bidstrup from the Angels, and then boom, along came COVID and things sort of changed. I was already in the Outdoors Party at that point in time, but it certainly changed the focus a bit. I was there for our stance on 1080 poisoning, which you guys have a little bit over there with foxes, but over here they blanket our bush in poison, and we've been standing up against that for a lot of years. It's been one of the core values of the party, and then when COVID came along, that changed a little bit, and I ended up with a vaccine-injured son. He went against my best wishes, and of course my life changed because I chose not to vaccinate. And so that made it difficult within the industry, but I've continued working in the industry now. It's kind of eased back, and and now working with the Outdoors Party is a big, Outdoors and Freedom is a big part of my day, along with marketing shows coming into New Zealand. Yeah.
We're going to have to sign you up for Australians for Better Government in the PR department, I think. We need some of that expertise.
Yeah. No problem. I help with independent things that are doing good things, particularly for mainly the COVID injured is what I volunteer my time with.
Well, I guess that's the most important question we should ask. I mean, how is your son? How's his health? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that when we were talking about this off air, that have been injured by these jabs to varying degrees. Some are subtle symptoms. Some people say, look, I just don't feel the same since I took it. Whereas other people, I mean, there've been people that have died. So it goes from one extreme to the other. But the point is, a lot of people were lied to. Everyone was lied to, and we'll get to that in a minute. But how is the health of your son? I mean, 4 years on.
My son was mandated as a truck driver in New Zealand, and he ended up in an ambulance 4 hours after having one vaccine. He did it to keep his job, and then he lost his job because there was no way he was going to have a second one, because he ended up in ED for the following 4 days after that. Being a truck driver, he was in these different hospitals. So unfortunately, he still has ongoing pericarditis. 4 years. It's basically robbed his late 20s, robbed him of his health in his late 20s. So he's nearly 30 now. And that happened in January 2022. So he sort of hung in right till the end and gave up at the end for the mandates. And it was a big mistake on his part. So, you know, he has ongoing pericarditis. So he's got a drug that keeps it under control, but the drug that keeps it under control can also be poisonous to you if you have too much of it. So he comes off and then he has bouts and ends up in hospital. In fact, we were at a party meeting on the West Coast because Sue's running down there for West Coast Tasman electorate, and we had the stream going, and I'd filmed Sue, and I was going up to sing a song that I'd written called Little White Crosses after the parliamentary protest. And as I went up, I saw my son's girlfriend ring on the screen, but I couldn't answer it. Went and played the song, knowing what was going to happen when I came back to the phone, because she only ever rings me in the evening when something's gone wrong. And sure enough, he was off to hospital. That was about a month ago, I think. So it's still happening. It's still happening now. He tries to live the healthiest life that he can, but he goes in the cardiology when he goes to see the cardiologist, and the whole room is full of young people like him. He's not alone. You know, basically the governments are not telling the truth about how big it is. You know, we see that by the numbers of young people that, you know, cardiology waiting rooms should not be full of teenagers and young men.
This is what drives me crazy. I mean, even if we just focused on the lockdowns itself, but the lockdowns, the mandates, the whole COVID response just drives me crazy, because there's been no accountability, which is what you guys are trying to do in a small way. And I applaud you for doing that. I want to bring up this press release that you guys put out just last week, only a few days ago. And it relates to this evidence that you've uncovered that I mean, I guess I'll let you guys talk about it. Sue, what have you uncovered here with this? You guys call it OIA. I guess we call it here in Australia Freedom of Information request.
Yeah, FOIA. OIA.
Yeah. What have you uncovered?
Well, we've been doing we'll call it FOIA. I've been doing pretty much one a day for the last 5 years, and Ali's been doing a lot as well, because they're very resistant to giving us information. But over the last 5 years, we've dragged more and more out of them, and we've got sharper and sharper in the questions we're asking. And just in the last week, we've got enough information now to be absolutely clear that our former Prime Minister, indeed two of our former Prime Ministers, intentionally covered up information about safety harm to young people from myocarditis and lied about it to the people of New Zealand, lied about it to the media, and it looks like they lied about it to our Parliament as well. So we've actually gone out now calling for the resignation of Christopher Hipkins, who's our current leader of the opposition, who's standing to be Prime Minister in our next elections in November this year.
Yeah, he was briefly your Prime Minister. Is that his real hair there? Looks awful. That can't be his real. So this guy, right? So, and from my understanding, he was like COVID. He was the head of the COVID response and then he was promoted to Prime Minister, which goes to show that politics is a little bit upside down world, when he should be probably fired from that position, not receiving an upgrade to Prime Minister. But Ali, let's go into detail about what you've uncovered. It all relates to a meeting that supposedly was secret or didn't happen, but you've found some evidence to say that it did happen. And what was talked about at that meeting?
Yeah, so we started with finding a TAG meeting, that's Technical Advisory Group. So that's the equivalent of your ATAGI. And we found this meeting where point 6 of that meeting said that they had removed safety information relating to myocarditis. So they'd removed it from public communications. So we knew that on the 17th that had actually happened. And then we went, right.
So just quickly, I mean, I know you just kind of briefly went past that. So what it was saying in this here is that it was requested that references to increasing dose intervals, potentially providing some protection against myocarditis, be removed from communications. So
yeah.
So
we know at that point that they've hidden it, but we wanted to find where the decision was made. So we had to sort of go backwards from there. And I got all of the correspondence from our Director General of Health writing to our Chief Science Officer within the your equivalent of TAGI with TAG, and found some correspondence that referred to a meeting on the 13th on Friday, the 13th of July. Talk about ominous days. And so we set about finding just who was at that meeting, because we figured there was a set of notes there of 7 notes to be discussed at this meeting, and it looked very much like this was them going to the officials. So it was so then we found, there's the agenda. So basically what happened then was we were told by one department that they couldn't find anything, and we were shown the diaries of Chris Hipkins and Andrew Little, and there was no meeting on the 13th in their diaries. And so they said they can't have been at any meeting. And then Sue was going to Department and Prime Minister and Cabinet. That was the answers she was getting. And I was going to Ministry of Health. The Ministry of Health gave us that agenda that you just put on the screen. Now that's an agenda, so it's a planned meeting of what's going to happen. But what we didn't know was who was really at that meeting. And then on Friday night, this Friday night just gone, after we put out our press release, I got an OIA back from the Ministry of Health, and they confirmed that all of them were there, including our Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern, all of the Associate Ministers of Health. Chris Hipkins was there, and he in fact chaired that meeting. So and then we also found out.
This is the guy that wants to be your Prime Minister again at the upcoming election in November.
Yeah.
So at that point, we've established that he's there. But what's happened is, when they've given me that on Friday, which is the next step beyond the agenda that you've got there, which is actually confirmation of who was there, they've not kept any minutes from the meeting. I had asked for Zoom transcripts, minutes, notes, anything they had, and they've said nothing. They'd said nothing existed. It wasn't in their diaries.
That was going to be my question. There's plenty of meetings that have agendas and they go out, but those meetings get cancelled or they don't happen. So the department actually confirmed that the meeting took place.
They confirmed, the good part is that, well, the whole thing's really bad, but the good part is that they confirmed that Towns and Bloomfield, who were our Director General of Health, with that correspondence with the 7 points to be discussed and agreed on at that meeting, they confirmed they were at the meeting, and we had correspondence between them going, I'm off out the door to the meeting, here's the 7 points. So there was evidence that they were heading out the door at 1:07 for a meeting at 1:30. We now know that was the meeting they were at. So it doesn't matter that they've not given us the minutes. We've got what's to be discussed at the meeting, confirmation they were on their way, confirmation they were there, and confirmation that Chris Hipkins chaired the meeting.
Yeah.
And Ardern was in the meeting. They all knew.
So I guess to break it down for people that are trying to play catch up like me, I just saw this today.
Yeah.
So basically they've had this meeting. One of the points discussed at this meeting was that they wanted to remove the warnings about myocarditis, and then once after the meeting's taken place, that's what happened. The warnings were removed.
So actually, point 7 was a decision of whether they were to reword it or whether they were to remove it. But the TAG meeting from 3 days later confirmed that they had removed it. So we knew that it was that meeting where they made the decision, and the 17th tag meeting confirms that they had actioned it. It actually says it has been actioned.
Yeah. Now, Sue, I mean, again, accountability, right? So you've uncovered this. I mean, it seems pretty clear. I mean, you've been on other podcasts and media in New Zealand, and no one can really fault what you've found. Accountability. I mean, yes, you've called for the resignation of Chris Hipkins, who's the current opposition leader. He's looking to be a future prime minister or prime minister again. But Jacinda Ardern was in this meeting. A whole bunch of other ministers were in this meeting. Where's the accountability on them? I mean, is there any way of getting any accountability for this?
Well, it's not easy. I mean, this has been the problem we've had ever since COVID started. It's like the law didn't matter, the rules don't matter, nothing matters. They just spin a narrative, make it up as they go. The evidence doesn't matter, and they tell us whatever they want to tell us. And it's been extremely frustrating. But I think we're at the point now where there must be accountability. We cannot go on. I mean, do we really want to have a prime minister who lies to the public about risks to our children and to the rest of our population, and then denies doing it? You know, he's been on other media since saying that he didn't get any warnings at all about myocarditis until early 2022. So that was like 6 months later than the meeting that we've now got, the minutes, the notes for his attendance. And we've also got a briefing paper he signed off on a couple of days later for the whole cabinet to consider, which was on the Monday, the 16th of August. So not only was he at the meeting where they decided to remove the warning about myocarditis, he then briefed our cabinet several days later, and they're claiming that the vaccine was safe and effective. There was no mention at all about myocarditis or any risk at all. So there must be accountability. I mean, we're absolutely determined, and which is why we've made the call for his resignation, and we will keep pursuing this until he resigns. We have to do it.
So this shows they knew the health risk way back in August of 2021. I mean, I lost my job in December 2021 because they brought in a mandate. No doubt there's the same warnings going on here in Australia. I mean, we haven't proved anything like that yet, at least not that I know of. But this goes to show these politicians were aware of this stuff, but they pushed ahead with the rollout anyway. Ali, I mean, obviously there's an election coming out. This has been a few days that you've had this stuff out there. Who's been knocking on your door? Have media been inquiring what's going on? Have the current government, who is opposed to the Labor Party, are they knocking on your door trying to find out more information about this, or is it just silence?
Well, I've been on with, as you pointed out before, Duncan Garner, who's an ex mainstream media guy, and there's been another guy on the platform, Cover It, who is actually a politician councillor at the moment, and they are both their commentary was about the fact that the media weren't touching this, and I mean there's a few other things there too, like the actual point where they decided that originally they'd given out redacted docs, so they tried to hide the fact that they'd hidden this too. They tried to cover their tracks. I mean, it's a scoop as far as the media goes, but then the media is very left-wing in New Zealand, a lot of the media, but I also think it's just they just don't want to admit it. And we'll just see what happens, because now that we've got what we got on Friday, which is the confirmation of the meeting 100% and who was in it, and we've got correspondence that links what they did at that meeting and links their decision. I am putting that out to media with a new release now, so we'll just see what happens. I mean, we can only try and press it through and push it out on social media. And we've got a fairly good social media with our party, so we've got a fairly strong social media with lots of people on it. So, but this involves a lot of children. Like I looked at some of Jacinda Ardern's press conferences from the podium, her little 1 o'clock sessions, and I found the one on the 19th, which is 2 days later or 3 or 4 days later after the decision's been made. And it actually affected, because then she talked about how many 12 to 15-year-olds weren't vaccinated at that point in time. And it was 256,000. You know, it's 250,000 Kiwi kids that this actually involves, where they withheld that myocarditis was a danger for them. And then they also, on that same podium, they said they were extending the dose and they were celebrating, but they only said they were extending the dose. They didn't say why they were extending it, but they were celebrating that meant they could get more first vaccines into arms that would free up some of the supply. So it's like, now that you know what you know, you look back at those podium things and go, whoa, there they are sitting there lying. Like 2 days later, they've removed it from communications and they're not mentioning that word myocarditis in relation to dosing intervals at all.
And it's even worse. It's even worse because they then, they came up with more mandates, so a lot more people were forced to get vaccinated, but they also came up with this new campaign, 2 shots for summer. And 2 shots for summer was advertised so that kids could, if they got their 2 shots, which the government actually knew could cause myocarditis, if they got their 2 shots, they could then go to festivals and other events. So that was the whole marketing, especially targeting the very people that the government knew were at risk from myocarditis. I mean, it's just inconceivable that a government would do that. And to go back to your other question, where are the opposition? I mean, shouldn't the opposition be absolutely outraged that their competitors were promoting something that was literally killing people and causing serious harm to people? And we know that. I've acted for some of the families who have been through the coroner and with findings that the vaccine did kill New Zealanders. So they knew how bad it was and they withheld the information, and yet to date there hasn't been a peep from the Prime Minister, from anyone else, from the National Party, from any of the other opposition parties. Everybody seems to have this code of silence.
Why do you think that is? I mean,
So I was going to get you to I was going to get Sue to explain what happened at our parliamentary protest with all of them, because that really is a key to it, I think. So you go ahead and tell them what happened.
So what happened when we were at Wellington, what we call the Freedom Village, there was an agreement between the leaders of all of the political parties who were in Parliament at the time that none of them would come and speak to the protesters. So there was a conspiracy between all of the parties, not just those in government, but the opposition parties as well. And so they've all bought into this, the whole lot of them. And some of the criticism of our government.
But so they're getting warnings that this stuff's going to cause myocarditis and they're deciding to suppress that. What are their motivations? Like that's what I can't work out, because I mean everything comes out in the wash. Like we don't get the whole truth, but usually the truth does surface. Like there was no way they were going to be able to suppress this forever. So what were they motivated? I mean, I don't know if you can answer that question, but it's a big question.
It's a huge question. It's a question we asked many times too. What on earth could be the pressure, the coercion, the benefit? What would motivate the Prime Minister and the leaders of a country to lie to the people about the safety of a product and then not only withhold the information but coerce innocent New Zealanders to take this product knowing that some would become seriously ill and potentially die? What on earth could it be? And, you know, one day somebody might actually come out and spill the beans exactly what it was. We know that they were obsessed with the vaccine. Jacinda wanted to be the sort of golden girl around the world with a country with one of the highest vaccine rates. But gosh, surely at some point conscience would override that kind of motivation.
Yeah, well, you're talking specifically about New Zealand, but this was rolled out across the world, and every country, every government pretty much responded the same way, I think, except maybe I think Sweden or one of those countries. But I mean, Scott Morrison, the Prime Minister here in Australia, I think he ordered like 10 doses for every single Australian, which didn't happen. Like no one took that, or some might have taken that many, I'm not sure, but and it was ridiculous, the response. Like I can't imagine what was going on in their minds. Ali, like when you've come out and you've called for the resignation of someone who was a former prime minister and now opposition leader leading into the election, I mean, has there been any response to that in specifically? Because that's a talking point in itself.
We've only just done it today, so it just happened to be that it's only just happened in the last few hours, and it's on a long weekend here. So they sort of gave it to me at 7 p.m. on a Friday, as they do with an OIA when they're freaking out about what they're giving you. Give it to you on a Friday, so you can't do anything about it until this case on Tuesday. But it's just, the dishonesty, and the thing is, the difference between Australia and New Zealand is that we had nobody on the inside. Like, you had Rennick and Kelly, and got these senators that stood up and said something. Like, whereas we've got this lockstep kind of bunch of people that nobody stood up and criticised anything. And that's a problem. Like, right now, if there was a good guy, like if we had a good guy like you guys have got, we could take Hipkins from the inside to the Privileges Committee for lying in Parliament when he was questioned over the Royal Commission over when he knew about what. But then it's more difficult to do that from the outside. It's much easier if you've got a senator or somebody, a politician on the inside that can take something to the Privileges Committee when they can unequivocally prove that a politician has lied inside the House, which we believe he has done.
Yeah, if there's no political will that Ali's just been talking about, what about legal will? I mean, you said you're a lawyer and you've practiced law.
Yeah.
Is there any way to go after these politicians legally? I mean, Jacinda Ardern, I mean, she was Prime Minister this whole period, and I don't know what she's doing now. Maybe you can enlighten me where she's ended up. But is there an avenue legally?
She's not in New Zealand. I don't think she's very welcome here anymore.
No backs. You keep her in the Central Coast. Keep her in the Central Coast. We don't want her back.
Potentially, in New Zealand, there could be criminal charges. I mean, there has been coercion to get a medical treatment that was dangerous without informed consent, and there have been deaths and serious harm resulting. So it ticks all the boxes for criminal charges. Our police have shown no willingness whatsoever to lay any charges. In New Zealand, we do have the potential for public to bring criminal charges. They're called private prosecutions. There's a few hurdles to get there, but it may well be where this ends up, and that's one of the options that we're looking at as a way forward, because there has to be accountability. These families who have suffered losses and many other families that have suffered just family members being permanently disabled with ongoing health issues from the vaccine, when the government withheld the information. I mean, our government, and I'm sure yours as well, kept claiming it's safe and effective. Well, people understand safe means safe, but apparently with vaccines, safe doesn't mean safe. Safe means something like, well, we think it's safe enough based on the information that we're willing to consider looking at the moment and the current evidence at the moment. But that's misleading in itself. And that was half of the problem, because people trusted the government. They trusted the words that they heard. Safe and effective sounds pretty clear. But what we now know is that the regulator itself never thought it was safe. Our regulator, MedSafe, actually refused to approve the vaccine in the first place. Then they did it under pressure, but they only gave provisional consent. They only gave it under conditions. So the regulator themselves knew it wasn't safe, and yet Jacinda Ardern, Chris Hipkins and others were telling the public it's safe and effective. There's absolutely no concerns about it. They even used the words absolutely safe and effective. Our Director General did the same. They lied. People died. There has to be consequences.
Yeah. Yeah, no, there definitely has to be. I mean, consequences and accountability, and we've been calling for that for a very long time. And like I've been saying, where's the health advice? The premiers here in Australia are up on the TV every 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in the morning, scaring the bejesus out of everyone with new mandates and lockdowns or whatever it might be. And that every time they would get up there at a press conference, they would say, we're listening to the health advice. Well, we can see what the health advice was in New Zealand. The health advice was, this is going to cause myocarditis and maybe you should keep quiet about it. I mean, why is that stuff not released? I mean, did you have something similar where you had, I don't know if you have premiers in New Zealand, but I guess the equivalent, or even the Prime Minister? I mean, I'm guessing they were referring to health advice as well. When's that going to get released?
Yeah, well, we've been asking for all of the information, but it was very tricky what they did in New Zealand. You know, Jacinda Ardern and Ashley Bloomfield would be up on the podium at 1 o'clock every day, pretty much. What they did here, though, is they created a new position, the Minister of COVID Response. So normally you would have had the Minister of Health, and the Minister of Health would have had all the advisors from the Ministry of Health. But when they created the Minister of COVID Response, it seems to have been a political role rather than a health role. And the Minister of COVID Response seems to have been directed by spin doctors rather than health people. So it was very tricky what they did.
This minister that you're talking about, the COVID minister, that was Chris Hipkins, right? The guy that became Prime Minister, now opposition leader, wants to become Prime Minister again. So, I mean, I can understand why you guys are calling for his resignation. I mean, even in the very least, he's got a lot of questions to answer.
He has. Well, he's been given some of the questions and he lied in the answers in the first round. So we are interested to see what he might say now.
Yeah. Now, Ali, you know, back in 2022, when I was running as a candidate at the Australian federal election, I was almost removed from a candidate forum for being unvaccinated. And that clip went viral, and I was getting contacted by people across the country and also around the world. I got people contacting me from the UK. A lot of people that were unvaccinated who were struggling with the mandates. I spoke to one woman who was crying on the phone. She'd been adversely impacted by the flu shot, and now she was terrified about taking the COVID vaccination, and she was a nurse and she was terrified of losing her job. So I coined the phrase then that the story of the unvaccinated had not been told, and it still in large ways had not been told. A lot of unvaccinated people really suffered during that period. But I'm starting to get to the point where I'm almost rephrasing that as well, because the story of the vaccinated has also not been told. The people that have been adversely impacted, that hasn't been talked about anywhere near enough. We've got this comment here from Deborah. She says, I've spent the weekend with a young man in his 30s, now fitted with a pacemaker courtesy of Pfizer. My heart is broken, as is his. We are grateful for Ali and Sue for their tenacity. I mean, this was unheard of. It was unheard of that 30-year-olds could have any heart issues, have heart attacks, have pacemakers. I heard the story just last week about a 41-year-old that had a stroke. That was unheard of before. I mean, this stuff's happening silently in the background. It's not in the media. It's not on the front page of the newspaper. But this is happening. There's a lot of fallout from COVID that's just not getting talked about, isn't there?
Yeah, there's a huge amount. The turbo cancers, like everybody you talk to, that they're reeling off lists of people that have died suddenly or died very quickly. And, you know, turbo cancer, who'd even heard of it until after the mRNA treatments?
No, I mean, this is the thing. Unfortunately, we're still only a few years into this. Who knows what the long-term impacts are going to be? I mean, 10, 15, 20 years time, is that... I mean, we're still uncovering this stuff as we go along, and you can only hope that everyone's going to be okay. It seems as though that's the case. I mean, if people haven't had a shot for a long time, it seems as though they've, I guess, dodged the bullet. But Ali, I mean, you spoke before about your son having to visit the cardiologist and seeing other young people. I mean, are you hearing other stories as well of people impacted that just don't have a voice?
So in New Zealand, I've been working with a series called The Tribute. So The Tribute NZ. So just look that up, folks, on YouTube. And we're putting out 20-minute stories with Gayleen Barnes and Linda Horton, who runs the Health Forum, like an angel on earth, helping vaccine-injured people. And every week we've been putting out 20-minute episodes of just testimonials. So my son's story is actually on there as well. So we've been trying to build awareness, because like the media don't want to cover what Hipkins has been up to and what they actually did, the media also don't want to cover vaccine injury either. So there's this whole, I think it's a whole culpability that's going on there. Like, they don't want to admit these people exist. And the sad thing is that people sort of think, oh, so they had a reaction, move on. That's not quite how mRNA injury is. It's not a reaction and we just move on. It's
Is
actually
is this the right
yes,
website?
this is it. Yeah,
Yep.
that's correct. Yeah, and so it's not. A lot of these people are suffering ongoing. And so when my son goes to the cardiologist, stop there for a second, that girl on the right, she said the same thing as that's Val. That's what I realized when we started to watch these episodes. She went, oh, I walked into the cardiologist office and I looked around and they were all young, and I thought, oh, I'm not going to be alone. So I started to see these kind of parallels as we were filming them, and they were all people that didn't know each other, so they weren't filmed on the same day. They didn't correspond at all, and they just, but they were telling the same story. Like when my son came in an ambulance, he was lying in an ambulance, lying on the gurney of the ambulance. His heart's beating like 200 beats a minute. He can't breathe. He feels like there's an elephant on his chest. And this guy walks up to him and goes, don't let this put you off your second shot. And he hadn't even put a stethoscope on him yet or anything, right? And he's lying there and he can't even go, what the, because he can't even get that out, because he can't even say that. Well, then another guy that was on the tribute, Brett, he said, I spent 3 days on pericarditis, and he said, I went to walk out and the doctor said, oh, don't let this put you off your second shot. So actually, like, that was clearly a narrative that they'd been told to pump out to patients, like, don't let it put you off your second shot if you're injured, And then, of course, what happened with my son, just briefly, and this is horrid, but it's happened to a lot of people, he went to 4 different hospitals who lost his ECGs, lost his blood tests. They wrote down that he had anxiety on his notes while they were looking at an ECG that showed ST elevation and PR depression consistent with pericarditis. When we finally located, they're supposed to be all uploaded to your digital health thing, right? When we finally located the Christchurch ones, they were on an off-site storage facility, and they never found the one from Ashburton on the first visit when he came in. But unfortunately for them, we dug around and found the ambulance ones that are kept in a different place. So that was, in fact, what proved that my son had pericarditis right from the start. And the fight that we had through our ACC, which is what we have instead of your vaccine compensation program, Sue joined me in that fight, along with a cardiologist and a doctor, and that was 2 years of fighting to get recognised. Wow. So that it's just, and nowhere near what you guys, like I saw some guy got a $6 million payout and was, was moaning because he got $2 million worth of tax. Well, I can tell you, my son, it wasn't even into 3 figures. So, it's they're getting paid absolute pittance for the damage that's been done in New Zealand, just pittance, because we have this ACC law over here, so we can't sue Pfizer or anything. Like, we can't sue anybody because ACC laws protect you from suing. You can't it's hard to Sue would explain the suing, but you can't do it in New Zealand quite as easily. You can't sue people because of our laws, and the ACC is so inadequate in what they're paying in vaccine injury. It's not even enough to cover anything. Let alone the loss of your health.
Yeah, it's accident compensation, and you can't sue in New Zealand for accidents, and you can't sue for medical misadventure. So all of that is covered by ACC. So you get a pitiful payment if you're lucky, but it blocks you from suing the person that caused the harm.
See, and this is massive. Ali, you spoke before about this song, Little White Crosses. I'm going to play it now because I have a question for you once we play it, and hopefully everyone can hear your singing voice in this as well and be very impressed like I was.
Little white crosses hanging in the smoky air. In the headline photographs, no one asked why they're hanging there. Each one had a name upon it, someone who had died, taking trusted medicine, now alive they are denied. Little white crosses show the truth. Those who survive will see it through. We will stand up, take each other's hand, help the people find their empathy, and together we will stand.
Okay, so great song, obviously about a not the greatest of topics, but the question I want to ask you is the footage in the background where very young people are shaking uncontrollably.
Yeah, that's
why is that
Casey.
not getting reported?
Heck no, that girl, that's Casey. I mean, I can't even begin to explain to you how cruel the New Zealand media treated her, how cruelly she was treated by the medical system. She is now accident compensation accepted, and what they lay hers down to is that she got an intravascular shot and it went into her vein, and that's what they're calling it out as. Just terrible list of symptoms. But that what you saw in the background was a ceremony where we brought together. At that point there'd been 56,000 reported injuries in New Zealand, and so we put t-shirts on them with 56,000 on the back, and we got everyone along, and we did like a mock funeral, and we presented a petition to Parliament, and it's part of a movie called Silent No More, Memorial Day. So if people are on my X, which is at Kiwi Alley, at Kiwi Alley with an ALY, and also on YouTube, it's Silent No More Memorial Day. It's about a 22-minute little documentary that talks about some of the injuries. So we've had some great filmmakers in New Zealand have actually have done some films. Silent No More, we had Silenced, produced by Sam Blanchard from Tākaka here, who covered kind of more like the media and the doctors. And the doctors in New Zealand, well, that's another whole ball game. And I'll let Sue speak to that, but they are coming after them like the medical council are like witch hunting our doctors down, and they're still being dragged before tribunals. So how many doctors have we lost? They've lost their licenses. That's the smallest of things.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many, but there's a large number, and it's ongoing. And they're being taken before the Health Practitioners Disciplinary Tribunal even now, and there's still some more to go for what was happening in 2021. So over 5 years ago, and the Medical Council is calling for them to lose their licenses, never be able to practice anymore because they did outrageous things like offering ivermectin to patients, warning patients that they may wish not to be vaccinated if they're pregnant, just very, very common sense, basic medical rights, informed consent, entirely consistent with our Health and Disabilities Code for patients' rights. But during that mad COVID time, the Medical Council absolutely cracked down on our doctors. I've been helping a lot of the doctors. I've been sitting through these tribunals, and it just defies the belief. And even when the evidence doesn't stack up at all against the doctor, when the experts actually come out in favour of the doctor, they're still being punished because it's said that they're bringing medicine into disrepute by challenging what the Medical Council told them to do. So the right for doctors to give individualised advice to their patient has been absolutely quashed during COVID.
Yeah. So let's get political now, because you guys are involved in the outdoor and freedom party, and there is an election coming up. What we're seeing here in Australia is a complete realignment, specifically on the right side of politics, with the demise of the Liberal Party and the rise of One Nation. Is something similar happening in New Zealand? I mean, I've heard about the ACT Party before. I don't know. I mean, I've heard good things. I don't know if that's for certain, but I haven't heard of your party before, Sue. But I mean, maybe talk a little bit about your party. Are you planning to run in every seat? And are you, what are your political outlook with the election coming up?
Yeah, so we're targeting key seats, but in New Zealand we have the MMP system, so we will have a list of exceptionally good candidates, including Ali and myself, hoping to get at least 5% of the vote and or getting people elected to key seats. For example, I'm standing West Coast Tasman, and the crux of what we stand for are local people making decisions for themselves, empowering people in communities rather than the globalist view, which is pretty much all of the parties that we've got in politics in New Zealand at the moment. All of the others are really globalist. So whether they're left or right in New Zealand, it doesn't make terribly much difference. We can see it, for example, still now with them all covering up for each other and doing what the lobbyists and the globalist multinationals want them to do. So we hope that the people of New Zealand will realise that it's time for a big change and will start supporting us and maybe some of the other smaller parties that are around. But we have a huge hurdle. We don't get any mainstream media coverage up through the last election. They couldn't. I had one headache. Formerly highly regarded lawyer Sue Gray, now anti-vax conspiracy theorist, says whatever they said I said. It made it extremely difficult. But just maybe we've worked through that now. It is easier on social media since Facebook stopped banning us every time we said something that they didn't like, or since the New Zealand government stopped getting into Facebook and blocking us because they had their own direct access to Facebook. It was really hard. But I think the public are getting smarter, and a lot of people just gave up voting because they just lost all trust in the system. And you can see why when the former Prime Minister lied to the people. You can see why. But we are hoping that people will give us a chance to show that actually things can be done a different way. We've got a long track record of standing up for the people in a whole range of issues, and we really, really hope that with a voice inside Parliament, we can do so much more.
Yeah. Ali, I can imagine only a few years ago you would never have envisioned yourself being involved politically. Now you're running as a candidate. What's that process been like for you, and what attracted you to Sue's party?
I think I always did have a political bent, actually. So I've always, there's been things over the years that I've stuck up for and campaigned for. And so I joined the party in around 2017 through as I said, the 1080 poisoning. And we're a very, obviously, outdoors party was sort of started as a hunters and fishers party, and kind of looking after the environment and looking after our ability to collect food, from the bush and from the sea, and clean rivers and, all those kind of things, which I kind of related to. But I think we kind of have a sensibility about us too. We're kind of like green, but with a sensibility. And now the freedom thing, of course, has become huge because we can see that that's under threat, and as so said, by globalist parties. And there are not any other non-globalist parties other than us, and certainly we're not controlled by party whips. So you can imagine if we get there, we'll be in there asking them very difficult questions every day where they can't run away. That's I want to see some honesty returned. I want to see people who lie, like Chris Hipkins, be brought to account. So once, as I said, again, if you're inside, you've got Privileges Committee, OIAs, you can ask a question and they have to go get the answer and come back almost instantly. You don't have to wait 20 working days. I think there's so much lobbying going on where manipulation is done. And I think in this case with the COVID thing, it's obviously been, in our case, Pfizer, that had a contract that nobody can actually look at or see. But hey, we've all seen the ones from various countries around the world. We kind of know what's in them. And they got these people and they just convinced them to follow it through, and then it became a thing to get everyone vaccinated. And you can see how the freedom got taken away by the lobbyists coming in and controlling. Well, my thing is that nobody will ever buy me. If I go in there, I'm going in there with a kind of drain the swamp mentality. Don't lie to the people, tell the people the truth. I think we've lost trust in media, we've lost trust in governments, and the only way that will be actually put back is by good people getting in who are not bought out by the system once they get in there, who are actually like, no, here to make sure you don't lie, here to hold you to account. That's the way I look at it, going in to hold them to account and make our governments more trustable. And I know that sounds like the impossible for some people, but I think it is actually possible if people are held to account when they lie.
Yeah, look, I mean, I agree with you. Unfortunately, politically, people always, a lot of people, not everyone, I mean, not people like myself, I always think about the country and what's right, but there are people out there, majority of people, unfortunately, when they think about voting, they think about what's in it for me. And they may be outraged about hearing about this COVID stuff, and they agree with you that there needs to be COVID accountability. But when it comes to an election time, they're sitting there going, well, what's in it for me? So, Sue, I mean, in that regard, if people were considering voting for the Outdoor and Freedom Party, what's in it for them? What's the situation economically in New Zealand? Have you got a housing policy? What's some of the things that people can benefit from, maybe with some of you guys getting elected?
Yeah, look, we've got policies on all of the main issues. I mean, let's start with health policy, for example. Let's focus on keeping people healthy rather than on fixing sick people. Turn the system back to front, and we save money for the health system, but we also give people much better lives. We don't need to have all this pharmaceutical run health system. Obviously, if someone has an accident, they need treatment, but much of the health problem is chronic health. In terms of the economics, we're getting people rated out of their homes because our councils are spending so much money. The government keeps giving more and more tasks to our councils, and the councils are just, they seem to be hopeless at contracting. They just seem to spend 10 times more than anyone would spend on getting the job done, or should spend on getting the job done. And our rates have become astronomical. We risk losing control of our water. We've already lost control of our rubbish to overseas interest. People can't afford to put their rubbish bag out anymore. It's just insane. So we really want to turn all of these things around and give local people back control over what happens, and make everybody, the decision makers, accountable to the local people. I mean, it's politics and it's law. Like, I've been going to court recently, and I'm having to stand up in court and say to the judge, does the Bill of Rights matter? I shouldn't have to stand up in court and say, does the Bill of Rights matter? Does the law matter? It's like everybody's forgotten what the checks and balances are on the system, and they just make decisions to do whatever they want to follow through their own policies and do whatever they like. So we really want to turn the whole thing around and actually go back to the most simplest of things. The law is the law. The law is there for the people. Let's focus on making decisions that keep the benefits for the people of New Zealand. Do look after your own family, look after your own community, look after your country. Don't get sucked into all of these globalist policies where everything that's good about New Zealand is getting diluted down and siphoned off out of our country. It makes no sense at all.
You really confused me sitting here in Australia when you said that people have to pay to put their rubbish out. What does that even mean?
Yeah,
here in Australia, we just put it in the wheelie bin and put it on the street, and the council comes and gets it. There's no pay. I mean, we have to pay rates, but what are you talking about when you say that? Because that really stood out to me.
Well, it's like $8 for a rubbish bag, per rubbish bag. If you want to put your rubbish out on the street for the council to collect, not only do you already pay the council a lot of money each year, but you'll have to pay per rubbish bag. This is how crazy it is. And you know what? I was at the beach a couple of days ago, and I said, what's changed at the beach? You know what's changed? They've taken away all of the rubbish bins. There are no rubbish bins at our beaches anymore, at least not the beaches in Tasman. You cannot put your ice cream wrapper or your fizzy drink, whatever you might have, in a rubbish bin. They simply aren't there anymore. Like, there's nothing about service to the people. It's just insane.
You know what? I mean,
and the rates are going,
Yeah, I've interviewed people in the UK. I mean, I'm having a very respected member of the UK Parliament on next week. I mean, I've interviewed people in Canada. I mean, across the Western world, we're just losing the plot. Like, we're losing our minds. Like, government does not work for us at all in any aspect anymore. And it's like they're doing things like charging you for rubbish bags to take the rubbish and taking away bins at the bins at the beach. I mean, how does that make any sense? Why are these and removing the protections or the warnings against myocarditis during a pandemic when people are uncertain about what they should do? This stuff doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. And I think the thing is too, there's a lot of bureaucratic bloat. And that's what's happening with the council. So their idea of taking away the rubbish bins at the beaches and less rubbish collection was their way of saving money instead of getting rid of 100 staff. You know, like our local council here, we've got 400 and something staff in it, and 9 of them account for 1.8 million in salaries. You know, there's just all this middle and high end kind of people that are actually in there that I'm sure we don't actually need. There's a real, and this government came in, the government that we've currently got, and said they were going to get rid of bureaucratic bloat in government, and they've only just done something about it now, and it's the election, and like that's what their voters are criticising them for. Wait a minute, we asked you to do that when you came in, and you've taken right until now to do anything about it. So it's kind of, there is real madness in it, though, and I think it's like too many lobbyists, you know. Lobbyists should be outlawed, and you shouldn't be allowed to be lobbyists. You shouldn't be allowed to come out of university with a political degree and go straight to Parliament. It should be just like Chris Hipkins that we're talking about, never had a job, just come out of university and went straight into politics. I mean, no, you should actually have to have had a business or had something to actually even qualify, I think. You know, like there's a lot of people that are just political animals in there, not actual. We need actual ordinary people with a good gauge of left, you know, a good gauge of right and wrong. And that's it. We don't seem to have people that know, because clearly all those people sat in that vaccine ministers meeting on the 13th and they knew what was right and wrong, or either that or they didn't know what was right or wrong. Well, you know, like how can you make those decisions?
They decided that having a consistent narrative was more important than warning people about the risks of myocarditis. Just unbelievable. That's their priorities, all about the spin.
Yeah. I mean, we have the exact same problem here in Australia, and probably in most countries around the world. We get these political staffers or union hacks, and they're the ones running the show. And I mean, there's good people out there, credible people that have built businesses and people that could do a fantastic job, but they're being turned away. And a lot of the times they get turned away at the party level because they can't win pre-selections or whatever. There's a system. I say it here in Australia when I'm speaking on behalf of Australians for Better Government. We need a revolution of thinking in Australia, but it seems like not just in Australia, but in New Zealand and other countries as well. I mean, Ali, I'm going to put you on the spot because you're the PR and promotions expert in New Zealand. Same question that I asked to Sue. Like, for people out there, they don't care. I mean, they care about COVID. They might think that there needs to be accountability, but come election time, they're only really concerned with what's in it for me. But why should people vote for the Outdoor and Freedoms Party? I mean, what are the benefits everyday New Zealanders are going to get from voting for you guys?
Having some ordinary people in there with a good balance of what's right and wrong. I mean, that at the end of the day, the system runs itself. The politicians are supposed to judge what's a good thing for the country and what's not a good thing for the country, what's a good thing to do and what's a bad thing to do. I think there needs to be, you know, if people are going to vote for us, we're going to have their back. We're going to go in there, and if we see somebody lying, or we get so much as a little puff of smoke where we think there's fire, where someone's not telling the truth, we're going to zone in and fix it. Like, that's like, I think it's the whole kind of character of the place needs to change. So if you want that to happen, and you want to have someone in there who speaks up and speaks back and speaks for the people, then give us a vote and give us a chance to get in there and keep the bastards honest. That's, I mean, that's it. It's just, if you want someone to keep the bastards honest, vote for us. Because I guarantee you, I'll spend the next 3 years with her asking them the most difficult questions. And that's what needs to happen. And there just needs to be more, I think there could definitely be more qualification of life before you're allowed to go in there and make decisions for the rest of the country. There has to be more of that, less career politicians. It should be impossible for somebody to come out and be a career politician. I think that's, and it's just I think that we can provide that ordinary person having the backs of our fellow countrymen and asking the hard questions and sniffing out when someone's lying, and then prove, just like we've done now. We've basically had a hint that they were lying and being dishonest, and we've gone all the way around, found the evidence and locked them down. They can't lie with their OIAs. They can't lie. They can't challenge what's the truth in their own documents.
Well, I'll say this. I mean, I don't know how much weight my opinion has sitting here in Sydney, Australia, but you guys, your party, you, Sue, and you, Ali, uncovered this stuff. The current government, who is the main opposition to the Labor Party, they didn't uncover this stuff. No, the ACT Party hasn't uncovered this stuff. The other parties in New Zealand, they haven't uncovered this stuff. It was you guys. You guys have been doing the digging.
And isn't that strange? Isn't that strange in an election year? They should be absolutely clambering over themselves to actually take down Chris Hipkins, and they're not, because they're certainly a bit culpable themselves. So, because ordinarily you give a little bit of a ammunition to the opposition party in an election year, and they'll use that like dynamite against the other side. And we've got that right now, but they're like, I know for a fact on one of the broadcasters that we've gone on, and I'm not going to name who, he's reached out and he has people from the current government come on his show, and nobody will talk to him about this. So, how long they're going to, I mean, at the end of the day, I just consider what I'm doing now from the outside or from the inside as gathering evidence. And I pray to God that one day somebody uses that evidence and takes someone to court, because heaven knows the way they've lied. They risked the lives of 250,000 12 to 15-year-olds and their parents by not telling them the truth about the risks of myocarditis. And in my heart, that's criminal.
Yeah.
You can't have informed consent if you don't have all the information. If the information is kept from you, you don't have informed consent.
Well, how many people would have not taken the vaccine had they known that? That's the big part of all of this.
Probably how many would have stayed out of hospital? How many have not ended up like my son? How many might not have ended up dead, actually? So,
Definitely. Sue, I'm going to give you, I guess, the final pitch. I mean, after everything that we've said tonight, I mean, it is an election year, so I mean, this stuff is important. I mean, is there a final message that you want to convey to people living in New Zealand and perhaps people living in Australia or around the world? What's your final message to everyone?
Look, if we want to create a future that we want, we actually have to be brave and step up and do different than what we've been doing till now, because the system we've got at the moment is failing us big time. It's been failing us for years. The globalist policies don't work. We all know that. So it's now up to the people power. It's up to people to think, be brave, and do something different, make their voice count, make their vote count, do everything they can do to claim back our future, because that's really where we're at.
Yeah, very good.
And Sue, how many people don't vote in New Zealand? So 849,000 people last election. Over here, it's not the same as there. You have to vote over there. Here, they don't have to vote. They're actually the second biggest block of voters, those that don't vote. So we're sort of hoping to go for those people and say, if you want a protest vote, stick your protest vote, tick us, because I can tell you they don't want us in there. They do not want us there. So if you want to actually vote for someone that the rest of the government don't want on there, then give your vote to New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom, because they're a big block. And actually, to get our 5%, we actually only need 16.39% of them, of the non-voters, to vote for us, and we won't even affect the rest of the voting pool. So, you know, I think that there's a big thing to be said for those that don't vote actually voting for us as a protest vote. Even if you don't normally, even if you're one of those sovereignty people, just tick it and go, there you go, you don't want that. These are the people you don't want.
Yeah, definitely. Look, I'd love to have you guys back on closer to election time, and maybe we can host a debate or something where we have a candidate. That would be fantastic. But for now, I mean, it's up to the last segment of Commanding the Narrative, the most important segment of Commanding the Narrative, and that's build your own fantasy government. I think I'm going to be completely bewildered by your answers, because I'm sure you're going to be focusing on the New Zealand system, and I'm not going to know who you're talking about, but that's fine for the New Zealand listeners out there. Sue, I'm going to do you first, and then Ali's going to have a go as well. Sue, you're in charge of the next Parliament of New Zealand, and you can choose 5 or 6 people. They can be living or dead. They can be anyone that you choose. They don't have to be politicians, but the idea is to pick a leadership team that can take New Zealand into the right direction. And you can pick yourself and your party if you want as well. There's nothing to stop you from doing that, but it's completely up to you. Who do you pick?
Well, definitely Ali and myself, because we've been out there doing it. The rest of our team at the Outdoors and Freedom Party are all pretty darn good too. We've got some amazing people in our team. We would like a few of the New Zealand doctors on board. They're the doctors with courage who have stood up against the system, against all odds, to try to reclaim medicine for the people and away from the corporate and pharmaceutical control. Who else would we have? Haven't thought of this question before, but I'm sure we could come up with a few good engineers and some other good practical people to bring on our team. But I don't know if we would actually take any of the current lot.
Yeah, well, that's definitely saying something. I like to put people on the spot. I'm sure people could come up with better answers if I gave them some warning, but it's more fun when I put them on the spot. Ali, your turn. You're in charge of the Parliament now. 5 or 6 people, anyone that you want.
Oh, obviously, our team, our great team from the New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party. I'd make Erin Brockovich shift to New Zealand, and I'd put her in as a cabinet minister. I wouldn't mind stealing one of your senators that's actually been standing up and taking hiding. Who have we got there? Craig Kelly, because we'd steal him.
He's available. He's available at the moment. I'm sure he'd say yes.
We'd like that, as long as they were people that knew how to stand up, had an even keel on what is right and what is wrong to do. You know, what is right and what is wrong. Good values. You need people with good values. That's important. But I'd definitely like to bring Erin Brockovich to New Zealand and put her in the New Zealand Parliament so she could join us. We've been nicknaming ourselves Brockoviches lately.
Very good.
But
yeah. All right. For people, if people want to check out your party, they head to your website, nzofp.co.nz, and they can find, or I guess just type in Outdoors and Freedom. You've got a Facebook page, an X account, and also a YouTube. So you can find out all your policies are on there. Your candidates are on there. All your information's up there, right?
Yep, absolutely. Yep, come and say hello and drop us a message or come to the Facebook page. That's very active. So
And I know Ali's on X as well. I guess that's your main account, Ali.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook with my music pages, but X is probably a main one for me. I'm running the New Zealand Outdoors and Freedom Party Facebook page on both X and Facebook. With a team of others that are helping out as well, because it's a busy little page. So at Kiwi Ali there on X.
And what about,
I have to find you on X too. I hadn't found you on X.
Oh, I think I'm already following you. Maybe we'll have to I'm pretty
Okay,
sure
I'll follow back.
I followed you the other day. Yeah. Sue, how are you on social media apart from your party stuff?
Yeah, look, best through the Outdoors and Freedom Party or Sue Gray for West Coast Tasman. My problem is the Law Society don't like me challenging the establishment on social media, so I have to be quite careful. I've already had to defend myself a few times.
Yep, fair enough. Look, guys, I've loved having you on. It's been a very interesting discussion. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, I think you're right, Ali. The accountability will come out slowly, and the truth will come out slowly. And whether there's enough accountability is really the big question. I think there needs to be a hell of a lot more. But I feel good that at least the two of you are out there fighting that fight, even though you're in another country and it doesn't affect me all that much. I'd like, this stuff has to come out right around the world. And there's still a lot of big questions about the pandemic period. A lot of stuff hasn't been answered. And it's I guess it's up to people like yourselves and others. I mean, we've got a whole host of them here in Australia, good people that are digging around or have pushed back in different ways. So as I talk about at Australian Spirit of Government, we can't rely on the politicians anymore, even though you guys are aspiring politicians. It's up to everyday people, no matter what country they're in, to push back and put pressure on these politicians. As you said, most of them are just political staffers or career politicians, and they don't know how to really live in the real world. So thank you very much, guys, for coming on tonight. And if you are in New Zealand or know anyone in New Zealand, let them know about the Outdoor and Freedom Party. I would probably vote for you guys if I was over there, but unfortunately, maybe one day.
We'll come and visit you when I'm in Sydney. I'll come and look you up. Just look out for that. Look out for Jacinda Ardern.
I didn't know she was here. She must be living incognito or something like that.
Oh no, she's in the in Central Coast, mate. Were you going for that party that you had advertised before? I thought, she doesn't turn up there.
Yeah,
I don't think so. I think she's laying low over there. But there is no backs. We've exported her to you now. You may not send her back. Please don't send her back.
We get a lot. I remember living on the Gold Coast, and half the people there were from New Zealand. So
it's very, very Kiwi orientated up there. But I do get over to Sydney sometimes, so I'll look you up when I come over.
Definitely, I'd love it. And maybe I can even come over across the ditch during election time and maybe do some interviews over there. We'll see how we go.
Oh, that'd be cool.
That'd be fantastic. That'd be great.
Yeah, live stuff's always better. All right, guys, thank you very much. And thank you to the audience for watching this. As I said, please promote these guys. They're doing some great work and they need all the attention and exposure that they can get. So please follow them and support them, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.